Hi, my dearest family. Today we are going to be looking at the upcoming lunation happening on the 19th of December, and it's going to be a new moon in the sign of Sagittarius, and it is happening on 28 degree Sagittarius. Yeah. Now, this is a very interesting new moon. So let's see what I'm going to be covering in this video. We're going to be, of course, looking at what the new moon actually represents. On top of that, this new moon is on the galactic center, so we're going to talk about that. This new moon is squaring Saturn, Neptune. This new moon is opposing an asteroid called Sappho. It's going to be squaring an asteroid called Panacea in the sign of Virgo. So basically, we're going to have a grand cross happening, a mutable grand cross. And this new moon is in quincunx to Uranus also. So as you can see, we're gonna have to talk about a lot of things. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to be giving you a very short breakdown what these might mean for your rising sign. But if you would like to have a little bit of a deeper meaning of those, I would like to remind you that I have got a YouTube membership, as well as you can go on my website and then sign up on the membership program also. Because each week, I mean, last week, for example, each rising sign took about 30 to 40 minutes long videos to give you a overview what to expect. And this week, they are looking around 25 to 30 minutes long as well. Here, I'm just going to be giving you a shorter version of it. Now, let's talk about, oh, and then one other thing is that I have got this charity webinar coming up in a couple of weeks' time on the 27th of December. So it would be much appreciated if you can support my cause. The proceeding is gonna go to kids and their Christmas presents. The webinar is going to be about the secrets of opposition. I'm going to be sharing information that you have not heard of shortly. The webinar is going to be about 2 hours long, most likely, and we're going to be looking at a lot of examples of how to use oppositions to your best as possible um, way, basically, for your own benefits. Now, let's get started with this new moon. Well, since the new moon is on 28 degrees Sagittarius, its ruler is Jupiter, which is retrograde in the sign of Cancer. And that Jupiter is in an exact square to Chiron retrograde in the sign of Aries as well. So we even gonna have to be able to talk about that too, because of course this is mega important. Jupiter and Chiron square. Basically, we have got it as the second one. But let's talk about what is a new moon to start with. The new moon marks the beginning of a fresh, kind of like 29.5 day lunar cycle. So, astronomically speaking, it occurs when the sun and the moon are aligned in the same zodiacal sign. So, basically, they are forming a conjunction with the moon positioned between Earth and the sun. Of course, from the Earth, the moon appears dark and invisible, and basically, that's the representation of a blank slate. Now, from an astrological point of view, this is about new beginnings, intention settings. This is when we should be planting the seeds for the future. Often the energy is actually quite reflective as well, or encouraging you to assess your needs and to decide what you want to create or what you want to manifest, especially let's say in the next 6 months until the corresponding full moon. So of course we've got the new moon right now on the December 19th, and then we're gonna have a full moon happening sometimes in April, early May. So, what are the themes of a Sagittarius new moon exactly on the galactic center? Well, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion, the luck. And Sagittarius focuses on the higher truth, philosophy, belief system, wisdom, justice, the search for profound meaning in life. but it's also expansion and growth as well. There is a lot of dreaming going on in with the Sagittarius. It's kind of like Sagittarius says, dream big or go home. It's a super optimistic, ambitious sign. Also represents travel and exploration as well. We don't always have to travel to explore, right? So we can kind of like in a way fantasize as well. We can kind of do this inner journey basically. But of course, it can be a literal travel to a foreign land as well. But like I said, there is mental, spiritual journeys as well. And that might be happening through, reading a book, higher education, or studying something. And also, Sagittarius is connected to freedom and independence. Often there's a desire to break free from what binds you and to chart your own course. Now, this new moon is happening on the galactic center. And the galactic center, it's also called as the GC, is a gravitational, energetic center of our Milky Way galaxy. It is located somewhere around 27 degree of Sagittarius. And the GC is associated with powerful cosmic information and downloads. This is where the deep truth is held. And, this alignment really feels like that it is kind of like the understanding of the bigger picture and an understanding the universal truth and gaining certain type of clarity. It's a universal awareness type of degree here, allowing you to see your life path and your goals, but from a much wider, more expansive perspective. But you're gonna have to keep your antenna, your intuitive antenna switched on. And potentially this new moon squaring Neptune that's one of the meaning of that. You're gonna have to listen to your gut feelings. You can even think of GC as a destiny or purpose point, which is kind of like stored somewhere. And then we feel very kind of like invited to go towards it, but it's the unknown, and often we are super afraid of it. And this new moon makes a conjunction to Juno, which is actually telling us that we're just gonna have to be committed. We have to commit that whether I go or I stay, basically. The galactic center is a very intense point. So, you know, um, any intensity can be scary and also it can be super exciting. Now, the Sagittarius is kind of like excited about that. So I think this is about, for many of us, that we have to dream big. We have to broaden our horizon. It says that we shouldn't be limiting ourselves. This is the time to set massive goals related to expansion, adventure, wisdom. And instead of small tasks, focus on where you want to be. For example, in the next, I don't know, 6 months or 1 year. So I love this new moon because this is really the new year resolution. This is when we should be doing that. However, it is squaring Saturn and Neptune. So, of course, illusions must be cut out. So, it has to be as much as realistic as possible. And then, like, not to get sucked into like a a scam type of situation. Neptune rules scams, thinking that yeah, everything is gonna work out and so forth. So Saturn does tell us, squaring this new moon, that we're gonna have to be able to take calculated risks. I mean, imagine, for example, that you want to start a new course, or you want to be publishing something, you want to be sharing your beliefs, you want to take a major kind of leap, a trip, a philosophical shift so that you can become free again. The idea here is that it's all granted by Saturn, just we're gonna, or even Neptune, which is we're gonna have to make sure that we do it for the right reason. This new moon could be a little bit like the American dream syndrome. And basically this Saturn is saying to us that the fence is not made out of sausage uh, anywhere else, you know. So you're gonna have to work hard for it. This is a Hungarian saying that the fence is not made out of sausage. Basically, it means that it's nowhere that dreamy as we imagine. So the new moon is always about intention setting. So you might want to be writing down your intentions, get a journal. Saturn says be specific about it. Give yourself a time frame, for example. Make an already achieved statement. So I've already manifested the resources for my dream trip to, I don't know, Cuba, for example, within the next 6 months, and stick it on the wall or in on the mirror, and make sure that you kind of read that note every single time. I tend to look at Neptune actually and Pisces as well as the sign of manifestation. And Saturn there is super helpful because it says if you can dream about it, you can make it happen also. So we can do a lot of meditation, but the energy is super vast right now. So that's why I think Saturn is there, because we need to stay grounded to be able to get the right piece of information as well. But it really feels like that there is this cosmic light from the galactic center, flowing down into your root chakras or your crown chakras. And therefore, you gain clarity about your highest path. Now, like I said, this new moon makes a conjunction to Juno and squaring Saturn Neptune. So, a conjunction to Juno, that's the asteroid of commitment, partnership, justice. And we've got the square to Saturn and Neptune, which is introducing a bit of a tension there around your dreams, ideas, which is Neptune, and the reality check and structure, which is Saturn. So basically, Juno says, be committed to this vision. It's about not just a general ambition, um, but maybe it's a commitment towards a higher truth in certain type of partnership. So maybe this is an invitation to read, like, do the redefinition around relationship. This might be a cycle to set intentions around what freedom or growth look like within your significant bonds. Maybe it's time to redefine a contract with a business partner, a business associate, or even a friend as well. Maybe there is a focus on shared philosophies or intellectual compatibilities or mutual support. So you want to expand, I want to expand. Let's get together and let's do it together. But this commitment must feel meaningful, not necessarily limiting. Otherwise, that square to Saturn is going to be like, oh, another task that I have to complete. But when we are excited about a vision, then actually we are willing to put the hard work in. And Juno, especially in the sign of Sagittarius, can really talk to us about imbalances of power and fairness as well. So this might be bringing up topics around justice and fairness. So, like, I want to be fairly treated. I want to make the fair agreement, which is supporting my growth and potentially my partner's growth as well. So if you have got intentions, around relationship, we can say something like, I commit to relationships that are built on shared values or mutual respect or mutual freedom. Now, the square to Saturn and Neptune, of course, there is a gap between your grand vision and then that confusing, messy reality. So, what it really feels like is that your faith is being challenged. I mean, you can feel overwhelmed by how or the practical limitations of your dreams. Maybe you are prone to delusions or wishful thinking, and the square is forcing you to be honest about where you are sacrificing reality for comforting your fantasy. And And from like a disillusionment point of view, maybe we have been clinging onto this beautiful belief system, let's say about a relationship, but Saturn comes around who is going to sober you up and then tells you that might not be the reality here. So, and it's super great to go after our highest vision, but Saturn also says that we're gonna have to be able to create tangible structures as well that makes that vision a reality. So I think, let's say you want to be setting an intention for a key relationship or a contractual agreement, and it says focus on the terms of freedom, the respect, the mutual kind of like growth element of it. Or, identify the illusions in your life that potentially you are ready to let go. Maybe I'm avoiding the hard work, or maybe your faith is clouding your judgment and your facts. You're gonna have to identify those. And surely the Galactic Center says to ask the universe to give you information, to give you guidance, to give you clarity about the destination or about the road that you need to be on. The ruler of the new moon is Jupiter, which is in the sign of Cancer, right? And I said it's in an exact square to Chiron in Aries. So, of course, both of them are retrograde. So, Jupiter in Cancer, we have been speaking about Jupiter in Cancer. Maybe you are even getting tired of that. It's about emotional security. I want to belong. I want to build my family. I want to live a comfortable life. I'm super intuitive. It's a retrograde, so these are often about inner experiences. We are re-examining our foundational beliefs about what makes us feel secure or what makes us feel whole as well. While Chiron in the sign of Aries, I'm sure you are bored of it, but it's about basically the courage to be me, the right to exist. It's about confidence, it's about courage. I've got the right to act as well. So does it feel safe to be me? you know or am I fundamentally inadequate? So this could be a couple of questions here that might be popping up with that Jupiter and Chiron square. Of course, while Jupiter wants that emotional safety, Chiron wants to protect your inner world because that Chiron might be feel threatened by certain type of actions that people might be taking against me. And like I said, this is the second square. So something in July, August got revealed to you about what the actual pain is. And Jupiter magnifies anything that it touches. So this could be a big pain. If you haven't been aware of your pains just yet, then potentially this is going to get spotlighted here quite a lot. So because this is the second square, this is about it's personal, it's an emotional comfort that has been highlighted once to you. So now you get a second chance to integrate the lessons internally before, of course, the final solution next year in August is going to come around. Um, so the new moon in Sagittarius is calling you to go towards your destiny, but it only is going to happen if you heal the core wound that keeps you kind of small. I mean, Aries is like that small child, that little toddler who is going to start exploring the world. So, are you allowing others to belittle you? Do you think that you are so dependent on other people, or on your family and stuff like that? So, the Sagittarius part of your chart makes the intention. Let's say I deeply believe that I am worthy to pursue my grand vision, right? So Sagittarius is the grand vision. I believe that's Jupiter, that I'm worthy, and that's Aries. So, if you feel a certain type of fear around that Sagittarian goal, the Sagittarius part of your chart, let's say, I want to be, it's in my 10th house, so I'm afraid that, maybe my career is going to fall apart. Then basically the first step is that you're going to have to identify that inner narrative. And with Chiron in the sign of Aries is somehow I'm not good enough. So therefore, Chiron in Aries is really about self-care. It's about self-nurturing. It's about self-parenting as well to a certain extent, surely with having Ceres in the sign of Aries also. This is also about reevaluating your belief systems. Like, what do I feed my body with? What do I feed my mind with? Maybe it's a time when you're gonna have to look back over the last few months, maybe since Jupiter entered Cancer or the previous square with Jupiter and Chiron. And maybe you're gonna realize that there were opportunities of expansion there, but they started shrinking away. And we're gonna have to start asking the question, why? Is it because of the Chiron wound that I didn't have the confidence, for example? Let's say Chiron is in the second house because I spent too much money or I was chasing the money and then I didn't have the courage to go after this new opportunity. So this new moon is surely a very, very strong portal that forces you to align your belief and your courage, and that your next adventure is built on a more of a healed foundation. Now, this new moon, like I said, it has a quincunx to Uranus as well. And the quincunx is something that is awkward, frustrating, due to the fact that the two signs don't have anything in common, basically. So imagine that it's an unexpected need to make changes to our vision, to our beliefs, to our travel plans. Uranus is the planet of disruption. So if I'm planning a trip, Uranus is actually disrupting that. How lovely. I'm traveling on the 21st of December. Hopefully, I'm not going to be manifesting that. I will be spending Christmas in New York and I'm going to be there for 2.5 weeks. But, you know, um, the dynamics here, we already mentioned that this new moon is getting, a little bit checked out by Saturn and Neptune, whether the vision is, based on realistic expectations. And it looks like that Uranus is telling us most likely it's not. So we're going to have to be a little bit like we're going to have to make changes to it. And maybe we're going to have to realize that we don't have the money for it. Or we're going to have to upgrade our finances to get it better. Imagine that Sagittarius says, "Oh, I want to travel the world next year." And then Uranus in Taurus says, "Okay, I'll bring you unexpected changes to your income." An unpredictable event related to how secure you feel, or, unpredictable events to your resources. Sagittarius knows that it has to expand, but are we choosing the right methods or the resources? So that could be, the reason why you have to make certain type of adjustments. Also, maybe what you are craving for is to become financially independent, and that's also Uranus in the sign of Taurus. You know, so maybe I have to be making changes how I look at my talent, how I handle my values, how I handle my money as well. Maybe I have to be releasing dogmatism, basically. Because Uranus is the awakener. So it's asking you to break free from any type of unnecessary Sagittarian dogma. Those are rigid belief systems, philosophies that prevent you from growth. And therefore, I think this, energy on one hand does ask you to be flexible, to be adaptable. And Uranus might tell you to be open to these innovative, surprising new sources of income. So invite it into your life, basically. This new moon also squares Panacea in the sign of Virgo, which is on 29 degree. So Panacea is about remedies, holistic remedies, solutions, um, healing resources, basically. So Panacea was the daughter of Asclepius and the sister of Hygeia. And like I said, she represents treatment and certain type of remedies, but the remedies are usually not necessarily with pills and, kind of like the Western way of thinking. This is a little bit more to do with like potions or, like preventions related stuff, like I'm going to brush my teeth and all those type of stuff. So, and Panacea is placed in the sign of Virgo, which is daily routine, work, service, health, physical body, perfectionism. So, with Panacea in the sign of Virgo, which is really kind of like focusing on, physical treatments, it's about finding the perfect specific remedy, through analyzing, looking at the diet routine, kind of like being disciplined as well. So this panacea wants to find the answer, the perfect protocol, the flawless system towards that grand vision that you are about to be building up. Now the question is that are you too like that perfectionist, right? Or are you looking at the specific details? The conflict here is that we've got this boundless, optimistic Sagittarius, with a grand vision. And Panacea is kind of like the cure it all type of concept. So it says we need practical requirements. There are practical requirements here. There are details. We have to get dedicated. How interesting. Panacea says to the new moon to get dedicated, and Saturn says the same as well. You might feel like that you have got the perfect opinion, you have got the perfect belief, um, but we might not. So the danger here is that we can overgeneralize, for example, or we can have this philosophical avoidance of certain type of details, for example. And, your theory is basically useless if you cannot apply it to your daily life. So we need to be looking at whether this grand vision that we are coming up with, is it useful? Is it even, is it just a quick fix or is it gonna fix things for the long run? Is it actually ethical as well? We are trying to find the most ethical ways of solving the problem, which is helpful and practical at the same time, and ethically sound too. Um, then we have got this new moon exactly opposing Sappho, which is another asteroid. It is placed in 29 degree of Gemini right now. So we can see that we've got a lot of 29 degrees happening, a lot of karmic type of stuff, a lot of closure, a sense of urgency happening here. Right, so let's talk about Sappho as well. By the way, its astrological number is 80, in case I didn't mention that. And Sappho is art. Sappho is named after the ancient Greek poet. And it's a very lyrical, passionate, very intimate type of energy. She represents the sensual and romantic sensitivities, when you want to express love to someone through a poem, it's kind of like the power of language, Are we able to articulate our hidden emotions? Are we able to talk, kind of like about what hurts and stuff like that? Or we are doing that kind of like in a flowery language. So, of course, Sappho is in the sign of Gemini. So definitely it says that the words are potentially very complex, but they do carry a huge weight. You know, it might even show that our feelings are quite multi-layered. You know, like I said, Sappho managed to express her feelings through poetry. But Gemini is a little bit more to do with facts and data. So there could be an element of a confusion there as well. We don't know how to connect the mind and the heart's true expressions. It's kind of like the heart says one thing and then the mind says another. But this new moon is interesting because it's focusing on the truth. It's focusing on the bigger picture. And Sappho in Gemini says that there is your personal truth as well. While Sagittarius is a little bit more to do with the universal truth. So somehow we're gonna have to give voice to our personal truth, surely. I mean, the Sagittarius impulse is to preach, for example, the universal dogma or this big, great truth, which risks overriding the need to articulate your intimate, kind of like personal nuance. So, what are those most passionate feelings that you have got? And then can you talk about them kind of like properly? Or we do that kind of like vaguely? It's an opposition, so your grand philosophical ideas must be brought down to earth. We're gonna have to talk about them like clearly. Um, yes. So these are the planetary energies that we can see going down in this particular chart. So let's look at some potential scenarios. Let's look at it first from a global point of view, and then after we can look at it on a personal level as well. I mean, one of the themes that could be coming up is a certain type of a lawfare or a global truth type of crisis. I can imagine the truth somehow is coming out, or, they are trying to paint an illusion for us, making us believe that that's the truth. Or maybe there are some national or international narratives here that is deceiving or kind of like giving out like a confusing or deceptive information or an interview, and that kind of like the voice of people, really, what Sappho in Gemini can represent, they start questioning this. And, let's say I'm going to be writing a petition, for example, and so on. Or, with Panacea, which is the representation of ethical healthcare. So basically, there could be some disruptions to global systems of health or aid or resource management. And then we are looking for that remedy, right? That's Panacea. But this might be getting hindered by some bureaucratic red tape or, the flawed protocols, and that could be Saturn. Um, or I can imagine that there must be a healing of some global ideologies here. Of course, that's really resonating with the Jupiter and Chiron square. Maybe this is a history related stuff or a historical leader or a cultural ideology, who or what gets criticism or or in a way attacked or vulnerable, like feeling vulnerable, you know. And maybe this requires world leaders to reevaluate their foundational beliefs, and maybe they have to be publicly addressing a wound, a weakness, for example. On a personal level, I think, like I said, it's about committing to your authentic path. You know, you have to be serious about it. That's, for example, Juno, whether it's career, educational path, or, just going towards your higher calling, which is your galactic center. But you must first think it through. You must kind of talk about it. It has to be personal. It is asking you to break away from old beliefs that no longer serve you. And potentially, with that Saturn being in the picture, we're going to have to finalize that structure. It potentially is a major life decision for many. I mean, looking at, the healing elements of things, I mean, Chiron in Aries, Panacea in Virgo, the healing is gonna happen when you are able to put aside your ego and you're ready to be vulnerable, and then you find a remedy that actually is very personal and then it works for you. I mean, maybe this is also about, yes, I'm going to commit to this health or work routine. This is about practical applications of self-care is the cure for your self-worth wants. So these are some of the scenarios. So now let's break that down for all 12 signs very briefly, though. So let's get started with Aries rising sign. This new moon is taking place in your ninth house, and let's call it as the visionary leap. The ninth house is connected to higher learnings, travel, publishing, philosophy, faith. Of course, we've got the Galactic Center, we've got Juno there, we've got all of these energies are calling you for a massive commitment to a life-changing belief or a journey. And this could be an inner journey as well, of course. We're going to have to be committed to our grand vision, potentially initiating a major course, studying something, booking a lifetime touring trip, or begin writing a book. For example, it's kind of like embracing your deepest philosophical truth. It's kind of like living life by a new higher moral code. Now, potentially one of the challenges is Chiron, of course, and Jupiter. So that's your first and the fourth house. And you need to know that you have got the right to exist. We have got that quest for truth is potentially being blocked by a wound to your self-identity. The need to heal your childhood pain, your roots, is pretty much a prerequisite for feeling worthy of taking that big leap. Intend to nurture your sense of self-worth so that you can boldly pursue your own truth. I think that's one of the major message for you for the upcoming lunation. Of course, also you should remember that this new moon is very much about commitment as well by having Juno. So we're gonna have to realign our belief system. We're gonna have to, somehow imagine that you have got a vision and then it's kind of like calling you. Of course, we can have all those subconscious fears and certain type of kind of like limitations, self-sabotaging limitations, negative belief systems with that Saturn and Neptune conjunction in your 12th house. Okay, let's move on to Taurus rising sign. So Taurus, this is going to be taking place, yes, in your eighth house, which is about the bonds, shared resources, joint finances, intimacy, inheritance, transformation, power, rebirth. So, of course, we've got a lot of energy there, including the Juno, the new moon, of course, the galactic center. So, this is a commitment, for example, to potentially sort your finances out, or potentially the partner is focusing on their own resources or finding your deep psychological truth. Now, this could really talk to you about merging or, for example, starting a new venture with a partner, which of course we're going to have to put our money together. Or I'm going to be committing to this very deep, emotional, maybe even sensual or sexual transformation within our key relationship, and that's Juno. This is about focusing on healing karmic debts, releasing major psychological fears and taboos as well. One of the challenges is Uranus in your first house, of course, and then Jupiter in the third and Chiron in the 12th house. So maybe there is an uncomfortable change that you are meant to be doing. Maybe this is an unpredictable shift in your self-image, your appearances, your finances. All those might be forcing you to adjust how you think and communicate. That's Jupiter in the third. So this is somehow an invitation to remain flexible in your financial planning and potentially seek short courses or local contacts to secure some of your new innovative resources. Again, because we've got a Jupiter and Chiron square, this might be even talking to you about that, yes, I have got the right to speak about my psychological complexes and blockages. I need to be able to um, kind of like be loud about it. I've got the right to tell people what my emotional needs are. So, this on one hand, maybe we are talking about certain type of unexpected changes in your identity as well, and that could be creating tension with your partner's partner, even with your partner's shared resources and debts. That sense of self-worth, which is also coming from, of course, for example, Sappho, which is in your second house, is being tested in these, kind of like joint efforts. I think also Jupiter and Chiron square might be talking to you about confusion, potential illusion within a friend group or a long-term goal. Sorry, that's more to do with the Neptune and the Saturn element. Something that is causing you an underlying strain on your emotional security and even the way you communicate with others. And maybe you have got this drive for this financial and emotional transformation, and is being undermined by a lack of discipline, for example, or in certain type of speculative ventures, which could be panacea, for example, in the fifth house, and that is preventing you from getting to that cure. Gemini rising sign. So, firstly, the lunation is going to be happening in your seventh house, which is the house of relationship. Of course, we have got Juno there as well, which is another relationship energy. So, this is a potential new beginning for you when it comes to connections, right? So, something to do with romantic connections, of course. And potentially, this might be a contractual agreement, a significant other, certain type of collaborations. It is a call basically to make a major commitment, a new beginning with a key partner, with a client of ours. So let's say initiation of a new partnership, signing a major legal contract, or committing to this new shared philosophical vision with a spouse, with a partner. Then the focus might be on equality and mutual belief in the shared future. So we are planning our future together. Of course, some of the challenges that might be happening for us is, of course, the Jupiter and Chiron square. So, and also even Sappho can become a bit of a challenge, of course, in our first house, because that Sappho is really telling us that we're going to have to find our voice. And we're going to have to be able to let the partner know, because the partner might be very demanding right now. We've got this authentic self-expression, which is Sappho in the first, is in direct opposition to the commitments required by your partner. So you need to be very clear about, like, articulative about your deepest, most intimate truth, so that we can create that equal bond within the partnership. But of course, on top of that, we've got, Jupiter in your second house and Chiron in your 11th house, which could also talk to you about that there is a desire to expand your finances, but you have got limitations, for example, around teamwork, or I feel outcasted, or this relationship block is demanding a loving internal reevaluation of your self-worth, so you might not feel supported enough. Uranus might become a challenge as well in the 12th house, that commitment to a partner, but there might be some unexpected shifts happening behind the scenes, and maybe it's an addiction, a deep subconscious patterns, or certain type of worry whether the partner is actually supporting me, are they going to lose their job, and so forth. So the articulation of your intimate self, may be becoming actually a little bit like out of your comfort zone as well. So that's even a possibility. Or, of course, the panacea in the fourth house is trying to find remedies for more of a practical, secure home life, or kind of like something like how I feel in my own skin. Okay, so let's move on to Cancer rising sign. So, Cancer, this is going to be taking place in your sixth house. And the sixth house is connected to daily routines, service, health, fitness, work environment, employees, pets as well. So we've got the new moon, Juno, the Galactic Center. So it is actually asking you to commit to this new, let's say, health routine or a work system. So let's pick a routine. Let's start a new holistic health protocol. That's even a panacea theme as well. Implement a major new system for your daily work. Commit to what type of service vision I've got. Maybe you want to be doing like a service that gives you more personal freedom. Maybe you want to be upgrading your work environment, your health practices. Why? Because of course we would like to have a better life. Now we've got Jupiter in the first house and Chiron in the 10th house. So this is about potentially that I want to be doing maybe a healing career, or I'm afraid of publicity. There is whether I'm professionally worthy enough. Am I meant to be somehow in the public, like standing? So this is asking you to bravely step into a leadership role while ensuring your career path is deeply aligned with the need for your emotional integrity and security as well. So it really looks like that, of course, this is going to be a work-related theme for you quite significantly. Potentially the other challenge is that I'm confused or I'm feeling limited. You can feel like that, oh, I don't have the right education. But maybe this is not the right belief system that you've got. The other challenging part of this lunation is, of course, Uranus in your 11th house, which might be an indication that there are certain type of unexpected events happening in the world, around your social network, or you suddenly just change your goals. You had a vision and all of a sudden it is getting disrupted. Maybe you have to be making uncomfortable adjustments to your work schedule, or even you cannot commit to your health routines as much because certain sudden things are happening. Your need for public recognition or leadership is pretty much blocked by certain type of fears, which is fed by confusion, most likely, even in your local communications with Panacea in the third house. So, what does that Jupiter want us? It wants us to nurture ourselves, to gain clarity exactly of what we would like to do, what type of work we would like to do. Leo rising sign. This is going to be happening in your fifth house, which is the house of romance and children and potentially creativity. But also, this might be talking to you about joy, hobbies, risk taking. So this might be an invitation to make a bold move when it comes to a creative project or even a new romantic connection. Like I'm gonna get committed to that romantic expansion, to that creative project. So we can be launching an art project, a performance, a business venture, or we can initiate this romantic relationship as well. This is an invitation to fully embody the joy and optimism. One of the challenges is potentially panacea in your second house, which, we've got this desire for a creative leap, but it has to be checked meticulously, or whether we have got the realistic resources allocated to it. So this is telling us that we need to come up with a discipline budget or a skill building routine, that is going to fully support your very optimistic, creative, speculative um, ventures. Now, of course, on top of that, the other side of the coin is that we might be very bold and we are running up against, lack of disciplined, like actions. It might be due to lack of self-worth, for example. And the other challenge could be, of course, Neptune and Saturn in the eighth house, which might be talking to us about that this is an inherited problem. We have got debts, and that's why we are reluctant to take a leap, or certain type of financial issues happening within your partner's life. It's kind of like sucking the creative joy out of your life, or it is kind of like stopping you to take risks as well. But the dispositor of this new moon is Jupiter in the 12th house squaring Chiron. Maybe it's a wound related to teaching or belief system, and it's forcing a very deep internal reevaluation, something that prevents you from fully committing to joy and fun and having a kid. This might be connected to your upbringing, actually. Okay, Virgo rising sign. So we have got this lunation taking place in your fourth house, which is connected to family, foundation, roots, emotional security, real estate. But this is the house of endings as well. So maybe I want to get more committed to build a family home, to sell a house, to buy a house, to have even a child, for example. So maybe you want to be initiating a major home renovation, purchase, sales of properties, or you have got this new foundational philosophy, what needs to be healed within the family, as well as how to create that inner peace. It even like your deepest roots that I am meant to be kind of like making more secure. Now, Panacea is in your first house, which might, and then of course, it's squaring the new moon, like we said, and then we've got Saturn and Neptune in the seventh house. So it looks like that, Panacea wants you to have this practical life approach, but it gets challenged by confusion and dissolving boundaries in your partnership. So this is an invitation to set clear, compassionate, realistic boundaries with people around us so that you can build this very solid, stable, truthful, like home life as well as um, inner foundation, basically. The inner foundation is such a super important topic, and I always say that I think the fourth house is one of the most important houses of all, but it tends to be neglected quite a lot. I think potentially the challenge also is that Maybe you have got some really high expectations, or the partner has got high expectations, or this commitment to this truthful home life, for example, is being undermined by certain type of illusions or the lack of boundaries within a major partnership. Remember, we've got Sappho, for example, in your 10th house, and of course, that Sappho wants to express something at work. Potentially, it wants to be known for something, and it is in conflict with your disciplined routine, which is Panacea in your first house. So those could be also something that prevent you from making the stable foundation. And of course, we've got Uranus, which is right in your ninth house, and that is an invitation to make changes the way you think about things, but it could be a sudden travel disruption or a sudden need to travel as well. This is an uncomfortable reevaluation of your home life, what makes me feel secure, and what is happening in our family life. Okay, so moving forward, Libra rising sign. So this is going to be taking place in your third house, which is the house of communication, your local environment, learning, short trips, siblings, contracts, early educations as well. So this might be a commitment made to a learning path or writing a book, a communication project, for example. It's kind of like you want to be starting this course, you want to be initiating a major writing or speaking project, maybe podcasting or writing up teaching materials and so forth. Or you decide that you want to be improving your communication, for example, with siblings or neighbors. Uh, it's kind of like you want to get to know the truth. Jupiter is in the 10th house. So we have to be healing certain type of partnership for success. So, of course, that Jupiter has got the ambition for public recognition, to expand the career, but it is clashing with a core wound related to intimacy, significant partnership, client work. So, we need to be healing the part of us that fears commitment, vulnerability, public success, working together with the clients as well. Of course, the other part of the chart, which is of course connected to the other two asteroids, and one of them is in your ninth house. Of course, that's going to be Sappho. So that might be talking to you about that you have got opinions that you would like to kind of like express, or maybe potentially you don't know how to do that. We've got Panacea in your 12th house. Still, we would like to expand our communication. We would like to work together with more clients, but maybe this is being sabotaged by hidden patterns or subconscious beliefs. And maybe that requires a little bit of a psychological work. We've got Saturn and Neptune in your sixth house, so there could be some confusion whether, this is the work that I want to do, or there could be hit and miss when it comes to your health routines. And maybe these are sabotaging your ability to communicate clearly or learn effectively as well. Okay, then moving forward to Scorpio rising sign. So Scorpio, this is going to be taking place in your eighth house, which is the house, sorry, second house, which is the house of finances, money, and self-worth. So it looks like this is a commitment to a new way of earning or a shift in your values, or potentially that you are going to be a little bit more careful with finances. So you might want to initiate this new venture or a side business, for example, based on your interests, your philosophical and ethical beliefs. Why? Because we want to generate income. Uh, Uranus is in your seventh house as one of the challenge, and Neptune and Saturn in your fifth house. So there could be, for example, unpredictable changes happening within your partnership or with clients as well. And that requires you to redefine your finances. Maybe you need to be establishing firm, realistic limits when it comes to your like spending, for example, so you can adapt to these new financial realities. Um, On top of that, with that Neptune, maybe you are spending way too much money on romance or creative projects or fun or children as well. And that might be shaking up your finances slightly bit. The cure is found in the discipline of your like group budgets, for example, or somehow even in your friendship, like maybe the friends are reminding you of that. Or of course, maybe you want to be investing a little bit more into your long-term goals so that in the long run, you're gonna have more gains as well. And of course, Jupiter and Chiron square, which is the nine and the sixth house. You know that Jupiter, who wants the truth and it wants to study and potentially it wants to expand or teach, but it's being blocked by a wound around self-worth in your daily work, in your physical well-being. So maybe, it's kind of like a scenario where you would like to generate more income, but let's say I don't have the right education for it, even though I've got the talent, and I don't want to be kind of like working in that field. So I'm having to go for a job that is not something that I like. Sagittarius rising sign. So we're gonna have this new moon in your first house, which is of course you. The first house is your identity, your physical body, but life direction as well. This is an invitation for personal rebirth. This is an invitation to commit to your destiny. This is your annual reset, basically. So this is asking you to step fully into your highest identity go towards your purpose, initiate a personal project, change your appearance, redefine your core life philosophy, align your entire being with your deepest truth. We've got Sappho in the seventh house, which might be talking to you about that you would like to get public validation, for example. Some of your personal commitments are challenged by the practical reality of your career or even your partnership as well. So I think this is also an invitation that you need to be courageously speak your truth to the world, to the partner, to the boss, and maybe there needs to be a little bit more meticulous work ethic so that, and that could be, of course, Panacea in the 10th house in the sign of Virgo, which is going to be supporting your new identity. So this might be you are after clients. Of course, some of the challenges could be also coming from the family as well. With Saturn and Neptune, who might not be supporting this new venture, this new identity, or certain type of family obligations that are holding you back to commit to this new kind of like lifestyle that you want to live. Or I can even imagine that you have got plans around relocating, but the family is somehow holding you back on that. Okay, Capricorn rising sign. So we're gonna have this lunation happening in your 12th house. And the 12th house is the subconscious, it's spirituality, healing, retreat, self-undoing, certain type of secrets. So surely this new moon is inviting you to go through this psychological and spiritual healing. Let's commit to an inner work. Initiate a new practice of retreat, the solitude, the meditation, so that you can access deep wisdom. That's the galactic center. You have got your hidden issues that you have to be facing. Let it be addiction or psychological patterns or things that you have swept under the carpet, and you are meant to be talking about them. And these might be connected to relationship with the dispositor being in the seventh house. Like, why am I attracting the wrong person? Why am I keep getting cheated on? Do I want to divorce? Do I want to get married? Why am I afraid of those? right? So healing the partnership and healing the roots with Chiron in the fourth house is going to be super important. Some of our childhood or home or emotional safety scenarios that you experience as a child gets projected onto your relationship. And maybe you want to start thinking about those, how I can heal them. You have got Panacea in your ninth house, right? That's also somehow a commitment to our subconscious healing, but it's being undermined by the lack of disciplined ethical application of your knowledge, of your studies, of your beliefs. We've got Uranus in your fifth house, which might be talking to us about sudden unexpected breakthroughs in your creative expression, some ups and downs in your romantic life, and maybe that is forcing you to integrate hidden parts of yourself. And we've got, of course, Saturn Neptune in your third house, and you get mixed messages, for example, or there is something that mentally you need to be processing here. And this might be impacting your ability to achieve that subconscious clarity that you need right now. Aquarius rising sign. So you do have got this lunation happening in your 11th house, which is hopes, groups, social justice, friends, alliances, long-term goals. So it's time to actually commit to a goal of yours. You know, what do I want to do? I don't know, in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, and so forth. This is a commitment to your vision. This is a commitment to create a better future for yourself. And maybe this is a social, a political cause, you know. Or, yes, this could indicate that you are making new, you know, friends, or you are committed to a group of people as well. And then you intend to be a leader for them so that you can bring positive changes into that community. But with Uranus and Saturn, second and fourth house, you know, there could be some disruptions within your family, and then it's more difficult, for example, to pay attention to your long-term vision. And maybe that's forcing you to restructure how you manage your shared debts, shared resources, debts, your own finances as well. Obviously, with Panacea in the eighth house also. So we need to apply more disciplined ethical strategies to our like financial liability, for example, or you know, financial goals. What did I forget to say? Um, and of course, Jupiter, sorry, Jupiter and the Chiron square. You know, I mean, obviously, Jupiter is trying to bring in more work for you. And Chiron is in your third house, which says that the wound is connected to communication. So, you know, maybe it's a wound around communication or learning, and it's blocking you the expansion of your work. Like not knowing your own talent, or maybe I refuse to study, however, I've got the talent, or maybe it's a sibling of yours. This can even indicate, of course, that certain type of communication or learning that is blocking, like maybe a stubborn kind of like mindset or your ego that you are not willing to put aside is blocking you to heal, to move on. And last but not least, Pisces rising sign. This is going to be happening in your 10th house, which is the house of career. So, reputation, vocational calling. So, we're going to have to commit to this new professional path. We're going to have to upgrade something. And maybe you want to be doing a career shift. Maybe you want to be launching a major project. Maybe you are up for a certain type of promotion. Maybe you want to make a public announcement. You want to be changing your professional identity. You know, one of the problem could be Saturn, Neptune, of course, squaring this. And, you know, the dream has to be grounded into reality. You know, the career path is being challenged by me being confused and maybe the lack of boundaries in my life. Maybe we have to articulate our deepest emotional needs for security. That could be Sappho, for example, in our fourth house. And not necessarily having like a delusional, foundation. Of course, we've got the Jupiter, which is in your fifth house and squaring Chiron as well. So that could, for example, talk to us about overspending. Obviously, Jupiter would like to have a lot of fun, and Chiron might not have the money for it. So this might become a conflictual energy there. But you can also get, for example, a sudden piece of information, or there's a local event, and that might be forcing you to adjust your schedule, to adjust your public image, to make changes in your career. And somehow your drive for public success is at odds with that need for clear, intimate communication at home, or potentially certain type of issues within the partnership that is kind of like need a bit of a remedy. You might feel like that if I collaborated with someone, it would work better, or if I had a stable relationship, it would work better. So, guys, this is a very brief analysis, of course, of this new moon for the 12 signs. I have done a lot longer version for my Patreon. So, if you would like to get a little bit more information, feel free to join. Thank you very much, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.